You are listening to the Empowered Equestrian Podcast. Today's episode is titled, Is it more important for you to be right or to be at peace? And this is really a weighty question because you may discover in our podcast chat today that being right may not actually be getting you what you want. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Teal Shoup, and you're about to empower your equestrian life with this podcast. I'm an adult amateur rider, the CEO of Global Innovator Sterling Essentials, and am passionate about loving horses and being an equestrian on my own terms. If you're a wanting more rider that thinks our equestrian world can be better, is curious, is a little frustrated with the conventions of the equestrian industry, this podcast is for you. If you're looking for what empowers and builds you up as an equestrian rather than tears you down, this podcast is for you. Journey with me and my guests from all walks of equestrian life to hear the conversations, wisdom, and stories that will help you become an empowered equestrian. And when you're an empowered equestrian, you become present in even more meaningful ways to yourself, your horse, and your equestrian community. And then together, we will help our equestrian community thrive. I'm glad you're here. Welcome. Another wonderful day, another wonderful episode. I'm so very glad you're here. Okay, so this one today is, gonna be what a lesson for me that has been, this is a lesson that I confess took me a little while to learn. And I'm not gonna lie, full disclosure, right? I'm still learning my lessons with this topic about how important is it for me to be right versus being at peace. And I wonder if maybe you're kind of like me in that regard, in that, is it really important for you to be right a lot? More often than not, a lot of the time, always. Do you feel like you sometimes have to prove a point, or just seeing that someone is doing something that's not fair or in integrity or correct, or they've done something to, wrong you, so to speak, air quotes, and you were hell-bent on making it right, like it has to be right. This is an injustice. I must go out and fix this, get all up on your high horse a bit about things. And, I get it. I used to be the same way about a lot of things until I started to realize what that actually meant and what that was actually costing me. Because I thought that if I was being right, like if I was going to convince someone else, or I was going to get my way and be right, that I was going to then receive that thing that I wanted, right? I'll give you a little story to illustrate this too. For example, right, I have my business also, my product business, and so I ship products all over the world, right? All the time. So, okay, bound to have a shipment here or there that has a little mishap. And so, I had this package going to a rider, and it never delivered, right? And I'm like, what the heck? Okay, this is weird. So it's been like a month, and she gets a hold of me, and I'm like, oh, okay, let me look into this and make this right. And I get a hold of FedEx, and they're like, oh yeah, the tracking all shows that, yep, it was in the, out for delivery, local delivery, final last mile to this rider. And they're like, oh yeah, it's now damaged and we're not going to deliver it. And okay, FedEx, they never even notified anybody of this. This has been a lot of time. And so, golly, there's all kinds of stories, right, that I could have got into with all of that. And I'm like, okay, no biggie. I'll just, file a claim. That's what we do. That's no problem. I think it's kind of odd that this, package got damaged because I packaged stuff the same way, and I've had these packages get delivered just fine, all over the place, right? So no biggie at all. This will be easy, And then, okay, so you wait around the FedEx claim process, whoop-de-hoo, all the, twiddling of thumbs and waiting around for them to get back to us. And please, And also, I send this out to the universe. Like, no, I am so appreciative of FedEx and my carriers. They deliver stuff safely, like, almost all of the time. And I'm so grateful that they make this possible. So I'm not sending them any bad energy. But FedEx eventually gets back to me and they're like, oh, no, we're going to refuse your claim because you didn't package your shipment properly. And I'm like, right. So the shipment makes it all the way across the United States, gets loaded on the little FedEx truck to drive the 5 miles to the rider's house, and it's damaged along the way, even though it's gone through all the processing and all the other upheaval, which is a lot more before it even got there, and you're telling me I didn't package it right. Never mind that those same boxes go all over the world and get where they need to go just fine without damage. Right. Yes, sure. Whatever makes you happy, FedEx. And I'm like, okay, where are the places I can go with this, basically? I mean, one, it's pretty hard for anybody really to argue with some of these larger companies and the customer service processes and all of that. So I'm like, okay, there's no point in me kicking up dust about this and making a stink. I'm not going to be heard. So, but even more importantly, what is the energy that I would be investing, and what is the energy and emotion I'm going to be getting to if I'm like getting all up on my soapbox and banging my fist and saying, no, FedEx, you're out of integrity with this. Clearly, you're not recognizing the part that you've had to play in this. You're not hearing my words, blah, 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 blah. Like, your claim denial is false. You should honor what I'm telling you, blah, 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 blah. Like, why waste my time and energy in that space, regardless of whether I would even have the chance of getting what I want to be right about, basically having that claim paid to me? What is my energy if I get into that like nonsense, right? And so this was so great because it was, okay, I have a business. I get to practice this constantly, just like you. You're in business, you have a career, you have a life, you have, family and loved ones. They give you plenty of opportunities to practice this, I'm sure, right? But it was realizing also that when you're in this energy of wanting to be right, like, that's not a good and positive and creating energy. That's actually pushing away what it is you're wanting to accomplish, because you're getting into a low vibration energy situation. And your emotions then, they're not in joy, they're not in gratitude, right? What are your emotions when you feel like you have to be right? When you feel like you've got to fix, correct, push a point, heck, even make someone wrong? I mean, especially if it's, you're trying to make someone wrong, or there's anything with dominance or spite or any of that other manipulative energy that comes with it. And no judgment here, because we've all done it. I've done that too, right? This is the human condition. We all experience these things and we all go through these things. So, but that was what was so interesting about over the years, as I've learned about being right or being at peace. And as we've talked about before, and I share in my coaching program, peace, your well-being is the absolute highest place you can work from. And if you're trying to be right and you're into all those negative emotions, negative per se, and like low energy, not that there's good or bad, but low energy emotions, like that is the absolute opposite of peace. So what are you attracting then? More of that same low energy nonsense, right? You're just attracting more that you're going to have to feel like you have to fight and argue about and be right about. Because where is that feeling, I think, which is so interesting, where's that feeling you have to be right coming from? It's because, why, right? You didn't receive something you were expecting, right? And think about that. Think about that. Why do you feel the need you have to be right? I mean, in my case with my story, like, well, an expectation wasn't met with delivering a package and then being transparent and in integrity on a claims process, right? So I didn't receive something, right? So then you go into the feeling, oh, I need to be right because my expectations weren't met. And if you are in that place of, I didn't receive something, okay, what is that? What is when you haven't got something? It's called lack, right? Whoa, and lack is like absolute killer for you creating what you want in life. Working from lack is like you just pulled the plug on any of the energy or dreams or desires or things you are wanting to bring into your life. It is such a low energy and low frequency place to work from. And the thing of it also too is when you feel this need to, I mean, sometimes even dominate in your need to be right and correct the situation. It's also all about control too, right? Can you see that? Because you're trying to control the situation. Maybe you're trying to even control another person. You're trying to control an outcome. Perhaps you're trying to control even a process of, you know, you want it your way, how you want it, in the time you want it, with all the trimmings. You know, you want your, you know, it's like you want your warm chocolate chip cookie and you want 5 chocolate chips and you want green sprinkles on it. You want it served, you know, on a crystal plate with a polka dot napkin. I mean, you know, and sometimes, right, it's even that ridiculous when you then start to think about it. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what I was doing. Oh, I see that now. And I'm like, oh, what was the point? That was such an unproductive use of my energy. Oh my gosh. But that's totally okay because we all go through these things. And this is how then you learn and you rise above it and you move then into a different place, which is such a nicer feeling when you're like, okay, that happened. All right. You know, I don't have to be into control about that. This says nothing about me. I don't have to be into lack about that because why? You know what? I can't have anything that's not mine by, you know, basically your divine right. So, you know, just let it go because then you move into a much more peaceful state. There you're into your peace. This is part of your well-being. And that's getting you out of that comfort zone also too, because I think, and it was for me, and I'm imagining for you too, that reaction of, oh, I must defend myself. Oh, I must be right. Oh, I must do X, Y, Z in order to get what I want and prove a point or make them wrong or fix the situation. Right? It's all about that control and that lack. And it's a habit because you've been doing it for years, decades, your whole lifetime. It's what society does. It's how you've been, you know, conditioned and shown what the norm is. It's what the normal practice is. It's how everybody responds. And so you just pick that up and mirror it, even since you were a baby, right? But the thing of it is, too, is, you know, I want to touch on this also, that you think like, okay, great, Teal, that all sounds fine and good. I'm not going to, you know, get into being right. I'm not going to get into arguing with my partner. I'm not going to get into arguing with my customer. I'm just going to say like, okay, you know what? You're right. And I'm like, yeah, you know, you can do that. You can do that too. And in some circumstances, this may be the path you need to go down, right? Because what is more important to you? Again, I ask, this is the litmus test. What is it costing you to have to be right in that particular circumstance? If you're going to get into a power struggle and an argument with a customer, What is it costing you to be in that place? Right? And I mean, who knows? Like, it doesn't have to cost you anything. And the thing of it is, though, is it's all then really about your boundaries. And this is how you judge when it's important for you to basically enforce your boundaries, or if it's something that's not really within your boundaries, then you let it go. And when I'm saying this, with your boundaries, it's like, okay, with the customer, for example, they're upset about something, they want to return something, they want you to honor a different price, like whatever the thing is. Well, you probably have policies in place that you've written that have established your boundaries on what these things are. So if you don't respect the boundaries that you have established that govern the processes, the rules, operations of your business, what are you then telling yourself about those boundaries and your integrity and trust of yourself about those boundaries, right? So if you let someone come in and just walk all over you and get back into people pleasing because you're also then afraid of the consequences of if you don't people please and say like, oh yeah, you're right, whatever, I roll over and let you have your way. When you have boundaries established, whoo, boy, you just, put a big hole in your self-integrity tank that's going to be draining right out. And if you're not in self-integrity, then this is also impacting your self-worth, your self-love, your self-esteem, and your trust in yourself. So more on boundaries on another day, because that is like a topic and that's like 10 podcasts worth of topics and even more. That's so much there. But think about that when you're evaluating when it's more important for you to be so-called air quotes right. And can you do it in a way that maintains your peace and your integrity because it's you protecting a firm boundary that you have and a boundary that's actually based on, you've established. It's not something you just invented, but something you've established that is around your highest values, the things that are most important to you, right? And this is fluid too, because yes, I know sometimes there's times to maybe make a little bit of an adjustment and an exception to a boundary. So yeah, you're taking this on a case-by-case basis, right? That's life. But if you're just getting into being right, if you're just getting into the arguing, if you're just getting into the dominance, the control, all from those lack feelings because something didn't go your way or didn't happen like you expected it to or wanted it to, you really got to ask yourself, what's more important here? What are you really wanting to get out of this? Because if you're pushing into just being right all the time, there's no winners in that circumstance. You didn't win. They didn't win. No one won. And what you need to do is be supporting yourself. And that doesn't mean being right. I think that's the thing that's like sometimes so hard to wrap your head around is that, if I stick up for myself, that's taking care of myself and I'm right, and that's like rah me. And I'm like, it might be sometimes, but if that's where you're at all the time, wow, what is it costing you and what are you giving away because you're giving your power away to that thing or that person, that circumstance that you're so trying to be right about. And you're just bleeding your personal power and dropping into those low energy emotions like a rock. Boom. Okay? Wow. So a lot to take away from that and mull over, I think. And there's, so much, I think, to work with there from a lack perspective, a control perspective, how you're managing your expectations, looking at your emotions as well and really your awareness of them, of how are you feeling when you're confronted with these situations, and as you're squeezed, are you moving then into that anger and frustration? Or where is your path to peace? right? Okay, so we'll leave it here for today and all those good little nuggets. But again, the takeaway is really you can either be right or you can be at peace. Which is more important to you, right? And what is it costing you if you are not in peace? So, I'm so glad you're here and listen to this. Thank you for staying tuned for this episode. And I'm really looking forward to our next one. And just want to mention you've been listening to this and I'm so grateful that you're here. And if you are getting value from this, and I'm sure you are because you're here listening, please share this with other people. There's so many people out there who could receive this and be helped by this. And so if you've received help from this, they will too. So please drop me a review, share this with your connections, your loved ones, your family. Let's lift each other all up. Let's raise each other all up. All right. Much love to you all. Make it a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to this entire podcast. If you're the kind of equestrian that likes to help others, then share this with your friends, fellow riders, and barnmates. You know, if you've found value, they will too. So please share on your social media channels. Also, if you've got questions or have a topic you'd like to hear about, I'm here to help. You can email me at customerservice@sterling-essentials.com, and I may even use your idea on a future podcast episode. Also, if you'd like additional empowering content, connect with me on Instagram at Empowered Equestrian Podcast. Finally, I do have a personal request. If you would please leave a review wherever you listen. And a good one, by the way. I'd be really grateful, and through your assistance together, we can help our equestrian community thrive. Thank you, and take care.